Empate queres करूँ?
Não, mas
Empate. E tu antes de Morning chanting, Hindi book, page number 2. Yo so bhagava arham sama sambuddho swakhato yena bhagavata dhammo supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho tamayam bhagavanta sadhammam sasangham imehi sakarehi yata arham aropitehi avitu पूजयामि साधुनो वन्दे भगवा शुचिरपरिनिभृतोऽपि पश्चिमा जनता नुकम्पमानसा इमे सकारे दुर्गतपणाकारभूते पटिगणातु अहाकं दीर्घरथ हिताय सुखाय अर्हं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तं अभिवादयामि स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मं नमस्सामि सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो संघं नमामि अन्मयं बुद्धस्य भगवतो उपभागनमकारं करोमि नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स अन्नमयं बुद्धाविभूतिं करोमि योऽसो तथागतो अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो विद्याचरणसम्पन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरुषोत्तम सारथि सत्ता देवमनुस्सार बुद्धो भगवाति यो इमं लोकं सदेवकं समारकं सब्रह्म ससमणब्रह्मणिं पजं सदे मनुस्संशयम् अभिन्यासच्चिकत्वा पदेदेशि यो धम्मं देशे आदिकल्याणं मध्यकल्याणं पर्यवसानकल्याणं सार्थं सव्यञ्जनं केवल परिपुण्यं परिशुद्धं ब्रह्मचर्यं प्रकाशेसि तमहं भगवन्तं अभिपूज्य तमहं भगवन्तं शिरसा नमामि अन्नमयं धम्माविभूतिं करोमि योऽसो तथा स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो सन्दिट्ठिको अकालिको एपस्सिको ओपनयिको पश्चात्तं वेदितव्यो विज्ञाहि तमहं धम्मं अभिपूजयामि तमहं धम्मं शिरसा नमामि अन्नमयं संगाविभूतिं करोमि योऽसो सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो यदिदं चत्ता पुरुषयुगानि अष्टपुरुषपुङ्गला ईश भगवतो सावक संघो आहुनेयो पाहुनेयो दक्षिणेयो अंजलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यखेतं लोकस्य साति तमहं
संघं शिरसा नमामि।
हंदमयं रतन तय प्रणाम गाथा यो चेव संवेग परिकीर्तन पाठं च भणामसे। बुद्धो सुशुद्धो करुणामहर्णवो योचन्त शुद्धवरज्ञानलोचनो वन्दामि बुद्धम् अहम् आदरेण तं। धम्मोपदीपो वियसस्य सद्गुणो यो मग्गपाकामभेदभिन्नको लोकोत्तरो यो च तदत्तदीपनो वन्दामि धम्मम् आदरेण तं। सङ्गो सुखेताभ्यतिखेत संज्ञितो यो दिट्ठसन्तो सुगतानुबोधको लोलपहीनो अरियो सुमेधसो वन्दामि सङ्घम् अहम् आदरेण तं। पुण्यं मया यम मम सबुपद्दवा माहोन्तु ते तस्य भवसिद्धया। इह तथागतलोके उपन्नो अर्हं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो। धम्मो च देशितो नियानिको उपशमिको परिनिब्बानिको सम्बोधगामी सुगतः पवेदितो। मयं तं धम्मं श्रुत्वा एवं जानामि जातिपि दुःखा जरापि दुःखा मरणमपि दुःखं शोक परिदेव दुःख दोमनस्य उपायासपि दुःखा। अप्येहि संपयोगो दुःखो पियेहि विपयोगो दुःखो यमपि इच्छं न लभते तमपि दुःखं संकित्तेन पंचुपादानकन्धा दुःखा। से यथेदं रूपोपादानखन्दो वेदनोपादानखन्दो संज्ञोपादानखन्दो संघारोपादानखन्दो विज्ञानोपादानखन्दो ये संपरिज्ञाय धर्माणो सो भगवा एवं बहुलं सावके विनेति। एवं भागा च पनस्य भगवतो सावकेषु अनुशासने बहुला पवत्तति। रूपम् अनित्यं वेदना अनित्या संज्ञा अनित्या संखारा अनित्या विज्ञानम् अनित्यं। रूपम् अनत्ता वेदना अनत्ता संज्ञा अनत्ता संखारा अनत्ता विज्ञानम् अनत्ता। सर्वे संखारा अनित्या सर्वे धम्मा अनत्ताति। ते मयम् ऊति नाम जातिया जरा मरणेन शोके हि परिदेवे हि दोमनस्य उपायासे हि दुःखोतिना दुःखपरीता। अप्येव नाम इमस्य केवलस्य दुःखखण्डस्य अन्तक्रिया पञ्चायेताति। चिरपरिनिब्बुतं हि भगवन्तं शरणं गता धम्मं च संघं च तस्य भगवतो शासनं यथा सति यथा बलं मनसि करोम अनुपटिपजाम। शासनोपटिपत्ति इमस्य केवलस्य दुःखखण्डस्य अन्त्यक्रियाय संवततु। कुछ पेज
will now chant Dhammacakkapavatana Sutta. Page बता पाओ।
शांत से दूसरे तरफ पते नहीं। कुछ पेज
देखो 125 है शायद।
किसी लिखे था Chakkapavattan Sutta, page 94, Hindi book. ये हो चुका हूँ सिर्फ हिंदी ना, ये पाली सिर्फ
पाली
हाँ ठीक है।
एक मिनट
शुरू पेड़ आपण प्रस्ताव ना पेड़
प्रस्तावना मैं यहाँ से चालू करूँगा ना इसको।
अच्छा
इसके साथ ही बोलना है इनके साथ।
ठीक है।
तो जो उसकी प्रस्तावना है we'll recite the sutta along with the we'll read listen to the chanting from this sangha. So this प्रस्तावना उसमें नहीं होगी।
खुद बोले वो
प्रस्तावना नहीं है उसमें, तो सीधा वो सूत्र से शुरू करेंगे।
अच्छा
Ewan me sutang ekang samayang bhagava paranasiyang viharati sipatane megadaye tatrako bhagava panchavagye bhikkhu amante sitave me bhikkhave Bapachitena nasevita payocayang kame sukama sukalikanuyogo hino kamo potu janiko analiyo anata sanghito yocayang atakilamatanu yogo dugo analiyo anata sannito ete te bhikkhave upo ante anupakamma majjhima patipada tathagathena abhisambuddha cakukarani jnanakarani upasamaya abhinyaya sambuddhaya nibbānaya samvatati khattamacchasa bhikkhave majjhima patipada tathagathena abhisambuddha cakukarani jnanakarani upasamaya abhinyaya sambuddhaya nibbānaya samvatati ayameva ariyo atangiko mako seyatitang sammaditi samma sankappo samma vaca samma kammanto samma ajivo samma vayamo samma sati samma samadhi ayanko sabhikkhave majjhima patipada tathagathena abhisambuddha cakukarani jnanakarani upasamaya abhinyaya sambuddhaya nibbānaya samvatati itang kopanabbhikkhave dukkhang ariya sajjang jati pidukkha jara pidukkha maranang pidukkha soka parideva dukkha โทมนัสสุภายาสาปิทุกขาปิเยหิสัมปโยโกทุกโกปิเยหิวิปโยโกทุกโกยัมปิจังนัลปฏิตัมปิทุกขังสังคิเตนะปัญจุปาทานากันตาทุกขาอิทังโคปานาปิกเวทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังญายังตัณหาโพโนภวิกานันติราคะสหกตาทัตระตัตระปินันตินิเสยติกังคัมมทันนาภวทันนาวิภวทันนาอิทังโกปนาปิกเวทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจังโยทัสสะเยวะทันหายะเสสะเวราคนิโรธจาโกปฏิเนสาโกมุทิยนาลายโยอิทังโกปนาปิกเวทุกขนิโรธกามินิปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังอายังเมวะอริโยปัฏฐังกิโกมาโกเสยติทังสัมมาทิฏฐิสัมมาสังกัปปะสัมมาวาจาสัมมากัมมันโตสัมมาอาชีวสัมมาวายามสัมมาสติสัมมาสมาธิทังทุกขังอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวปุเปอนันตุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิธังโกปนิทังทุกขังอริยสัจจังปริญเยยันติเมภิกขเวปุเปอนันตุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิธังโกปนิทังทุกขังอริยสัจจังปริญญาทันติเมภิกขเวปุเปอนันตุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิทังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวปุเปอนันตุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิทังโกปนิทังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังปะหาทาพันธิเมภิกขเวปุเปอนันตุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิธังโกปนิทังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังอหัยนันติเมภิกขเวปุเปอนันตุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุอุตตปา ติญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิอิดังทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวปุเบอนันตุสุเทสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิธังโกปนิดันทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจันสัจจิกาถาพันติเมภิกขเวปุเบอนันตุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิธังโกปนิดังทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจังสัจจิกขันติเมภิกขเวปุเบอนันตุสุเทสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิอิทังทุกขนิโรธกามินีปฏิปทาอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวปุเบอนันตุสุเทสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิธังโกปนิธังทุกขนิโรธกามินีปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังภเวทาพันธิเมภิกขเวปุเบอนันตุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิธังโกปนิดังทุกขนิโรธกามินีปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังภาวิทันติเมภิกขเวปุเบอนันตุสุเทสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุตตปาทิญาณังอุตตปาทิปัญญาอุตตปาทิวิชชาอุตตปาทิอาโลโกอุตตปาทิยาวะคีวันชเมภิกขเวหิเมสุจตุสุอริยสัจเจสุเอวันติปริวัตังกวาตสักการังยถาพุทธังญาณทัสสนังนัสสุวิสุทธังอโหสิเนวตาปะหังภิกขเวสัทเทวเกโลเกสมาระเกสัพพะมะเกสัสสมณพระมณียาปัจจายสเทวมนุสายอนุตตรสัมมาสัมพุทธิอภิสัมพุทโธปัจจัญญาสิยโทจักโคเมภิกขเวหิเมสุจตุสุอริยสัจเจสุเอวันติปริวัตังกวาตสักการังยถาพุทธังญาณทัสสนังสุวิสุทธังอโหสิอัตถาหังภิกขเวสัทเทวเกโลเกสัมมาระเกสัพพะมะเกสัสสมณพระมณียาปัจจายสเทวมนุสายอนุตตรสัมมาสัมพุทธิอภิสัมพุทโธปัจจัญญาสิ ญาณัญจปนเมทัสสนังอุตตปาทิอากุปาเมวิมุตติอายมันติมาจาตินาทิธานิกุณาภาวติธรรมโวจะภะคะวะธรรมนาปัญจวัคคียภิกขุภะคะวะโตปัสสิทังอภินันตุงอิมัสสมิจฉาพันเวยากรณัสสมิงปัญญมังเนอายสมโตคันดัญญาสวิรจังเวทมลังธัมมจักขุงอุตตปาทิยังคินจิสมุทัยธัมมังสัพพันธังนิโรธธัมมันติภาวติเทชะภะคะวะทาธัมมจักเกบุมมาเทวาสาธรรมนุสาเวสุงเอตังภะคะวะตาปาราณสียังอิสิปัฏฐาเนมิกตายอนุตตรังธัมมจักขังภาวติทังอาปฏิวัติยังสัมมาเนนะวะพระมเนนะวะเทเวนะวะมาเรนะวะพระมุนาวะเกนะจิวะโลกสมิงทิภูมานังเทวานังสัตตังสุตวะจาตุมหาราชิกาเทวาสัตตมนุสาเวสุจาตุมหาราชิกานังเทวานังสัตตังสุตวะทาวทิงสาเทวาสัตตมนุสาเวสุทาวทิงสานังเทวานังสัตตังสุตวะยามาเทวาสัตตมนุสาเวสุยามานังเทวานังสัตตังสุตวะทุสิตาเทวาสัตตมนุสาเวสุทุสิตานังเทวานังสัตตังสุตวะนิมานารติเทวาสัตตมนุสาเวสุนิมานารตินังเทวานังสัตตังสุตวะปรณิมิตวสวัตติเทวาสัตตมนุสาเวสุปรณิมิตวสวัตตินังเทวานังสัตตังสุตวะพระมคายกาเทวาสัตตมนุสาเวสุเอตังภะคะวะตาปาราณสียังอิสิปัฏฐาเนมิกตายอนุตตรังธัมมจักขังภาวติทังอาปฏิวัติยังสัมมาเนนะวะพระมเนนะวะเทเวนะวะมาเรนะวะพระมุนาวะเกนะจิวะโลกสมินทิทิหะเทนะคะเนนะเทนะมุหุเทนะยาวะพระมโลกาสาโดอะปุกาชิอายัญจตัสสะหาสิโลกาดาตุสังคัมปิสัมปะกัมปิสัมภเวทิอาปมาโนชะโอลาโรโอปัสโสโลเกปัตุระโหสิอติกาเมวะเทวานังเทวานุภาวังอัตโกภะคะวะอุทานังอุทานเยสิอัญญาสิวัตบุคคลดัญโยอัญญาสิวัตบุคคลดัญโยทิฏฐิทังอายสัมมโต Kondanya Sahanya Kondanyo Tavevanamang Ahositi Dhamma Cakkapavatana Sutang Nititang.
We'll now meditate during meditation we'll listen to a talk by Larry Rosenberg. He's a very senior meditation teacher and set up the Cambridge Insight Meditation Society and has been practicing in various traditions, Zen, Theravada, Krishnamurti and so on. So his talk is, we listen while we are meditating. It's on choiceless awareness. This talk is also downloaded from the website dharmascene.org with gratitude.
In the Vajra song, Free and Easy. We finished I wouldn't say finished, but we said a few words about that first general statement, which I think is the whole thing, and now there are elaborations. Happiness, if you recall, cannot be found through great effort and willpower, but is already present in open relaxation and letting go. The next line says, don't strain yourself. Trying to find units of the appropriate units to comment on. Yeah, that stands by itself. There is, don't strain yourself. Which is what I was doing. Yeah, okay. From the place of real silence, so many of the things we're doing are a strain. Relative to what we know, they may not seem that way to us. In preparing to enter into the spirit of this kind of meditation, and here we hear, don't strain yourself, so many things can come into play so that you don't strain yourself. I'm sure you can think of more once I get started. An obvious one would be the body. When we start to sit, sometimes teachers will say, relax, sweep through the body, see if there's any tension, bring mindfulness to it, sit erect but comfortably. Any attempt to help the body sit in comfort is a step in the right direction, and in this kind of meditation especially important. And so here what's asked of us is to become really sensitive to places of strain in the body. And we create strain in the body, of course, often through the mind. We may come to our sitting with strain, the accumulation of tensions over many, many years that are stored in the body. And when we sit down, we can feel some of it. Some of it starts to surface, and as those of you know, probably all of us, it can be extremely uncomfortable. The jaw perhaps is tight because we're determined. There's a kind of joyless determination, and it turns up in the jaw, or maybe the shoulders are poised for the breakthrough. The teeth clenched. This is it. It's around the corner. And it shows up differently for different stages of the practice. Beginners, or maybe no one here, but on retreats, people who are, let's say, new to longer retreats or new to IMS. One of the things that's important to help them see is that they may be frightened. They may be afraid of failure. They're in a situation, they're not sure they can do it. They're not sure they can sit still and be quiet, and they see the schedule, and they've been told what it is. Let's say these are new people, and their friends who've done it and said how valuable it's been, and you go. But there's some fear and concern with failure, and that can sometimes be compensated by tremendous strain in the body. And then when you become a big advanced yogi, then it's more ambition, striving. You've been sitting for a few weeks, and it's just been wonderful, just having wonderful, clear sittings, and then you do some kind of dharmic mathematics. Let's see, I've been sitting an hour in the morning and an hour at night, and I feel this fantastic. Multiply that by all the hours that I'm going to be sitting at IMS. Let's see, we start at whenever, 5:45, add that up, there's the late night sitting, I can do that too. I mean, and we come and we're really ready to go, ready to get at it. And so it can turn up that way. Or special projects, people have problems in business, family problems, decisions that we have to make. We're in conflict. Should I move to Keokuk, Iowa, or stay here? I have nothing against Keokuk, Iowa, just someone said that to me once. I've never even been there. So strain turns up in the body. One of the beautiful things that comes out of practice, but certainly the breath, which I know fairly well because I've seen it in myself and others. Often people don't realize this is happening. When you point it out, sometimes they can see that it's quite true. The breath is a very, very powerful conditioner of the body. That is, what happens to the breath happens to the body. Now, that makes obvious sense because we know that we come into life with the breath and we die when we stop breathing. So obviously, the breath has a very, very powerful relationship to the life of the body. But we don't concern ourselves too much between the time of getting born when we were too young and when it's time to move on. But as you attend to the breathing, the breath starts to become more refined, more subtle, smoother, deeper, and so forth. Although this is not breath therapy, Anapanasati is not breath therapy, the Buddha from time to time has talked about the health benefits of the breath. He never goes into too much of that. I think he's afraid people will get all caught up in that and forget about what he's really teaching. So as you pay attention to the breath without trying to do anything to it or to fix it, the quality of the breathing tends to improve. And as that happens, it affects the body. So when breath awareness becomes much more continuous and effortless, relaxed, and the breath is just very, very fine and enters and exits freely, it starts to affect the body in a very, very positive way. It's easier to sit comfortably and longer. You may not realize that to some degree it comes from that. Now, when that level of breath concentration or breath even absorption becomes deeper, you get to states like piti, P-I-T-I, or rapture it's sometimes translated as, which is a tremendous, it's somewhat active, but it's a tremendous joy that comes out of a concentrated mind. And that can have a very, very powerful beneficial effect on the body. All kinds of knots that are in the body can just untie themselves. So that, of course, puts the body in a better condition to be able to continue with the awareness practice. I guess don't strain yourself. I want to have something left to say for the rest of this, but one main way in which there's strain, a subtler one, more with the mind, and that certainly came up in interviews today in all the groups, is there's a very subtle kind of strain that comes from expectations, where we want something special to happen to come out of the meditation. When you're sitting, waiting for something to happen, there is some tension there. Now, you may not call that tension, but again, relative to the piece that we're moving towards, or that comes out of this, there's tension, there's an expectation. Typically, there's a concept in our mind, which we, again, may not be aware of, even with silence, or we feel the thinking starting to slow down. And so then there's the thought of, if this keeps going like this, I'm gonna really drop into silence just with what I've been reading about and hearing about. And so there's a kind of waiting for something special to happen. And you have to see that. When you see it, it falls away, and you're just there again. Sometimes it's called waiting without waiting. And that's a waiting that isn't a problem. I mean, it's just a real openness. Perhaps it's what real prayer is about. I don't know. I haven't done that, but sometimes when I hear about it, and read a little but not much, when there's a waiting but for nothing in particular, just a total and complete and utter openness and simplicity. Choiceless awareness is an exercise in utter simplicity. It's stripping away all of the different roles and aspirations and plans and schemes, techniques, doctrine, theory that we work so hard to accumulate, even dharmic. And to just, I'm not even going to insert a word. Someone once asked the Chinese master Matsu, what is Buddha? And he said, mind is Buddha. And then later on, someone came up to Matsu and said, I hear you telling people that mind is Buddha, is that right? And he said, oh, only when the baby is crying, you have to tell it a bedtime story to calm it down. He said, so what do you say after the baby stops crying? No mind, no Buddha. So, anyway, you figure it out. And we get to there is nothing to do, so we said don't strain yourself. I think you all have a feeling for that very much. Trying to do it right, trying to be a good yogi. There is nothing to do nor undo. Nothing to do nor undo. Here again, many of you, probably most of you know that name as Rinzai. At one point said, take it easy and do nothing. This was part of how he was teaching Dharma. Take it easy and do nothing. That's really what we've been talking about. Take it easy. In other words, take it, receive it in an easy way, whatever it is. Remember, you're sitting with whatever's there. Take it easy. Really receive it, just receive it. And do nothing. It's not siesta. It's not inaction. It's non-action. It's not vegetating. You're doing nothing. Now, this can be misunderstood because sometimes that's the problem. You're trying to do nothing. Okay? Which, of course, is a big something. What he's getting at is is to really do nothing. This practice of choiceless awareness brings together two energies that, at least to communicate about them, we can give two different words for them. When the practice is really sailing along, they fuse, and you can't separate them. One is there's a very passive aspect, and that is this absolute receptivity. You're not doing anything. It's passive in that you're not doing anything. You're not trying to intervene, etc. And it's active in that it requires a very high degree of alertness, real alertness. Now, if you're straining to be alert, with the jaw and all that stuff and the shoulders, then that has to be relaxed, because that's not going to help you. That's actually a barrier to what this whole approach is about, which is a gradual letting go of all contrivance, all battle plans, blueprints, designs, and some of the most cherished dreams of the ego. Sometimes they just have to let them go. It can be painful. At a certain point, when the mind is really balanced, it's both very passive and also very active in that it's present and really alert. There's real alertness in the presence. But there's no intentional tampering with what's happening. to do or to undo. When we meditate, very often we tend to see things that come up as problems to be fixed, and we want to do something about it. So this is what we're up against. It's why we need to hear these instructions, because we're not doing that. We see it as a problem, and we've had tremendous training in our life and conditioning and encouragement to fix things that need fixing. If you're a mom, you're an expert at looking for problems and fixing them. If you're in the business world, you're also doing that. Wherever you are, we've had a lot of practice. A lot of life is problems. And you meet them. If you're successful, you meet them gracefully with as little emotional cost as possible, and you do what you need to fix it. Okay. When we're sitting and something comes up, and let's say we define it as a problem, like my problem of loneliness, my problem of fear, my problem of grieving. Someone's uncle died on the retreat. I don't know if she's here still. What do you do with that? Okay. Now, typically, something in us wants to fix it, either to cart it away, or we get out our toolkit and we want to start hammering away or screwing or sawing or do something to make it okay, to make it better. Because of our preoccupation with a solution, with an outcome, with the fixing of it, we don't really see the object. In other words, this concern with a result, with an outcome, with a remedy, discolors the object. You don't see the object because part of the mind is too concerned with what's going to happen to it in a favorable way if you do the right thing to it. Even if you hear, just watch it. Okay, so what's much more important than the problem, much more, and that's what we're learning, because problems come and go. From the point of view of this practice now, is the approach. The approach is really crucial. And the approach is to just see it. Now, in order to do that, you have to start seeing that you have a lot of very strongly conditioned habitual tendencies to do something, to get out your toolkit and to start fixing things. And you start to realize that you're not really seeing what you even say you're seeing because you're a bit ahead of yourself. Sometimes called a gaining idea, but it can be more subtle than just ambition. It's not really, it can be anything where you're not fully allowing what's there to just be exactly as it is, and for that to be enough. Now, the approach is so important, and I think that's part of what's revolutionary in these kind of teachings, is that the problems come and go for everyone, whether you're a meditator or you're not a meditator. What we're really learning is a radically new way to approach what arises, to meet it in a very, very different way. Instead of grabbing it or pushing it away, to just bring attention to it. Now, in choiceless awareness, what we're doing is we allow everything to roam freely, and then we meet it in a very friendly way. We're learning how to make friends with all these different creations that come up from wherever, of the mind and of the body. We've given complete free life. Here comes my whatever. How to learn to approach something that's problematic in such a simple awareness is the whole art of observation. It gets refined, and you see how there are, it's kind of an admixture of seeing plus stuff. Our personality, our yearnings, our fears, or these projects that we have about fixing ourselves, fixing the mind. So the approach is very, very important. Here there's a crucial, for me personally, it was a turning point in my practice. You know, a lot of what this is directed at is the tendency that we all have to avoid things. That is, to not be with just what is, because that's what this whole thing is about. Just be with what is in this very simple and direct way. And part of what we've been doing is we postpone dealing with what's coming up. Let's say anything, we avoid it. Let's say it's fear. And I'm going to use fear because fear, I don't know anyone who doesn't go through this, inevitably comes up as in choiceless awareness as we start to approach the threshold of real silence. Or you can call it the unknown. We have many networks of escape. We can deny it. We can repress it. Obviously, none of these things are practice. We can grasp onto it and identify with it. We can avoid it. We can cope with it. We can deal with it. We can put up with it. We can postpone. There's a lot of energy, all of which are different ways to not face it simply and directly. And one very good one that isn't recognized so easily, especially among people who are intellectually minded, who've read lots of books, is we explain it. Very often, if we have an explanation for what's happening, it's so satisfying that we're done. Our job is done. Let's move on to the next thing. We haven't begun. Buddha said, Jesus said, Krishnamurti said, that's not it. And it feels good, and it feels fulfilling. And so that's another, no, we don't do that. We learn, it's a kind of letting go of so many things that we've done, some of which have been relatively helpful, have gotten us this far in life. Okay, this is a big one. I think this whole paragraph probably should be commented on together. Whatever momentarily arises in the body-mind has no real importance at all, has little reality whatsoever. Why identify with, become attached to it, passing judgment upon it and ourselves? Here, to link this up to the teachings of the Buddha, let's say in the Anapanasati Sutra, the last four contemplations are the wisdom contemplations, and one good way of understanding this is that it grows out of a deeper understanding of anicca, of impermanence and emptiness. That is, if you've been practicing. And remember, doing this practice, I always think that we've had a foundation of basic practice before we come to it, or alongside of it. I apologize to the loudspeaker. I'm getting very spiritual. In the 13th contemplation, and this is, of course, basic to the Buddha's teaching, every school, you've all heard this over and over and over again, but one way in which it's put is being sensitive to the changing nature of all formations, the meditator breathes in. Being sensitive to the changing nature of all formations, the meditator breathes out. Okay. Now, that on its face is just about impermanence. But impermanence is a doorway into a deeper understanding of unsatisfactoriness, and tonight I'm going to emphasize the emptiness, which is, I think, what's gotten at here. One of the important reasons for seeing impermanence at work, and so if you're doing that when Vipassana is really cooking, you're seeing that no matter what comes up, whether it's the breath, whether it's a thought, whether it's a mood, a sound, a smell, a bodily condition, if I've left anything out, it arises and passes away. This lawfulness cuts through content, but we're preoccupied with content. We impute a certain solidity to what's happening. We're very interested in the content of what's happening to us, of course, it's natural. In fact, I think it's a stage in practice when you're able to not be so fascinated by the content of your own mind and are able to look at the process, be able to see that no matter what it is, whether it's profound or trivial, it arises and passes away. Now, as you begin to see that at work, and it's very important this has to be learned in a deep way for it to have transformative power. As the mind becomes more silent, and that's in choiceless awareness, seeing the coming and going brings you to much more silence. When the mind is very, very silent and is seeing all of this change, let me suggest in general what tends to happen. First of all, it helps you let go. It makes no sense to hold on to things in a changing world because it can't be done. It's just not intelligent. Now, it may take us a while to get that, and we have all kinds of emotional reasons to not honor it. So we stick our hand in the fire and we get burned, and we stick our hand in the fire and get burned. And how many more times do we have to do that? Until we learn. Okay, now, one of the beautiful things of silence, to get a little bit ahead of ourselves, not enough time, is when the mind becomes silent, more quiet, and it sees something. Let's say the changing nature of all formations, whatever turns up, that changing nature touches the silence. The mind is quiet, really watching. And that impermanence, I have to use a word, but not the concept, the actuality of it, touches the silence and stimulates a deeper kind of understanding. It touches the silence. The silent mind is a form of intelligence. The silent mind has, there are many forms of intelligence. It's not rational, but it's not irrational either. And so what happens is that silence learns the lesson of impermanence at a depth that the rational mind doesn't, probably can't. Okay, so as you begin to see that, it becomes easier to let go because it's just sensible. Okay. Also, as you're watching objects arise and pass away, come and go, you begin to see that their apparent substantiality is just that. It's apparent. And this is, again, not something to take on as an ideology. That is, so you feel that you belong to the Buddhist club. Everything is empty. Everything arises, passes away, lacks self, it's empty. And you feel like you belong in the emptiness club, and tell other people who know much less about you, well, that's just empty. And they get angry because it seems stupid. What it means is you begin to see in a sense, the ephemeral nature of whatever it is. If you see things change enough times, your relationship to that thing changes. You start to see what it actually is. Now, to begin with, without sustained and careful attention, things do appear to be very solid. When fear is there, it's as if it's there forever. And it's massive. And then it sets in motion panic or all kinds of tactics like evasion and denial and suppression. But if you manage to approach fear in a friendly way, to come in close, and as you begin to learn to do that, you do it a few times, and the whole quality of fear changes for you. You're able to see, oh, here's fear. Here's terror. Come on in. Sit down. Have a cup of tea. You don't believe me. It's energy. And you begin to see the energy of fear move through the body. You see what it does to the body. Okay, now that doesn't happen overnight, but that is some of the fruit of practice. That's how you get free of fear. You have to, it's intimate, but the mind, there's a kind of, the mind has some of the austerity of a scientist, this mind that we're talking about, but it also has warmth. It has warmth and a real caring about what's happening, even though it's not for or against. As you begin to see the nature of these things, you're able to let them go. And of course now, we could stop here, maybe we'll have to, and next retreat we'll finish this. Or maybe tomorrow a little bit after, because I don't see how I can finish this by 8. what we're talking about here, by the way, I do want to clarify this where it says, whatever momentarily arises in the body-mind has no real importance at all, has little reality whatsoever. Why identify with and become attached to it, passing judgment upon it and ourselves? Be careful with that one, where it says no real importance. Teachings emphasize different facets of reality, and in order to help you let go, it's very useful to see it as having no importance. But if you get attached to that, it can be something called emptiness sickness, where, because the forms exist in the world, and it's not like they're not there, it's just they're not there in the way we think they are. And so life goes on. You come back to the same world, but only with a much freer relationship to it, because you've seen that it's empty. Empty doesn't mean that it's worthless. Impermanent doesn't mean that it's worthless. Okay, just want to make sure. It's not nihilism, in short. It's not life sucks. It isn't. Okay. What starts to happen here, and here's where the power and the beauty of choiceless awareness can, that if you're into it, it's not a method for everyone, but if you take to it, its utter simplicity becomes something that it's a quiet passion. It takes a lot of energy and effort and interest, but it's a passion that's unassuming. Is that the mind starts to empty itself of its own content. As you start letting go, the mind starts emptying itself of its own content. And this brings you to silence. And then we have a whole nother phase of practice, learning how to allow ourselves to be taken by the silence, to soak in it, to allow it to work on us, because it does something extraordinary. If you learning how to stay there, in short, and learning how to come from the silence into action. That's a complete practice. In the emptying of the mind of its content, we're emptying it of all of its identifications. That's what this song is saying. The most important identification that we're emptying it of is the identification with all representations in the mind about who we are. In other words, we're attached to this, we're attached to that, we start to see it, let go. But finally, the key one is the attachment and identification that we have with representations. Now, here's what I'm trying to say. This is getting at the question, who am I? And it's getting at the heart of the whole practice, where it's really going. If you want to talk about it in terms of true nature, original nature, by a representation, what I mean is a notion that you have as to who you are. A picture in the mind, an image that you have of who you are. These can be very, very strong, and often we're not even aware we have them. A few times on this retreat, people reported certain images that they didn't know they had, self-images, that were just broken into pieces. One person was very surprised at how problematic the heat was. You know, it was a sense that I've practiced with much worse than this, and, warrior mind. But then suddenly this came out of nowhere, and it turned out to be problematic. Okay. Suddenly there's a bit of disappointment. Well, I thought I could do this. I mean, I've done worse than just heat. But the point is, what the mind is bringing up are all kinds of notions about who you are. Here's what I mean by a representation. I see some puzzled looks. Let's say when you graduate from a school at some level and your family has a nice photograph of you, a little bit touched up, Oh, the teeth are whiter, the smile is... They've caught 1/1,000,000th, I don't know how photographers would know, a frame of you, fixed it up a little, and then again framed it, and it's in wallets and on pianos, and it's being displayed to people as you. Now, is that you? No, that's a representation of you. It's not you. Okay, it's a representation of you. How about the description? I'm a very kind person. Those may be helpful words, but they're not really you. They're verbal representations. Whatever comes up in the mind, any notions about who you were, who you are, who you're going to be. Come on, we all know what this is. This is where so much of our suffering comes from. When you're suffering, find out who's suffering. Very, very often what we find is that some image has been damaged. The person just gives you a hi, just like that. And suddenly something's hurt in us. So we start to see that. We start to empty the mind of all these representations. Well, what's left? Okay, now, some of the power of choiceless awareness, and this may not be fully understood, it's working on a number of levels. One is, I think you're familiar with what I'm talking about here. But what is it that's making choices all the time? Let's say that's doing the meditation. It's a center that we've created named me. I'm now doing choiceless awareness. Okay, we have to start there. Let's not be too hard on ourselves. But it's from that center, and that's what I meant, the image of it expands sometimes and it's small sometimes with a leash for the doggy. But nonetheless, everything is related to that center. That we do things and we strengthen that sense of a center, from which things happen, to which things happen to. And when the practice becomes choiceless awareness, when it's effortless, you can't make that happen. That's something that grows out of having lots of effort, doing all the things that this is saying not to do, but seeing it. And as you see it, it starts to fall away, fall away, fall away. And then you may find yourself, I have to use language, but there is awareness. Leave yourself out of it. There's a field of awareness, of space, without any center in it. There's not this agent who's doing everything, who's trying to meditate, who's reaping the benefits of meditation, who's dressed up as a yogi. It's all the ego. Okay, so if you give that up and just allow whatever comes to come, you're just there. Whatever turns up, turns up. It's fine. Good things, bad things, interesting, boring, sound, sights. There's just awareness receiving whatever turns up. Can you see how that is decentralizing the ego? The ego is being put out of a job because it's the ego that's deciding all these things. It's the doer. And so the method itself, it's a method, but it's also the end. In the hearing, there's just what's heard. In the seeing, there's just what's seen. In the tasting, there's just what's tasted. The Buddha said this in all the other senses. In thinking, there's just what's thought. That's it. Someone asked them what the teaching was, and that was they didn't have much time. That was the quick version. And you could say, well, it's a guideline to practice, but it's also the end of practice. And so when we're practicing, caring for the moment, really taking care of this moment by receiving it without separation, and as our capacity to do this grows, that is both the means and the end. We stop being preoccupied with this extraordinary event that's going to happen sometime in the future if we practice hard enough. And rather understand is that we can waste our entire life chasing shadows and fantasies, and that all that really exists is now. That's all there is now. Take care of it. Like sometimes when I ask people back in Cambridge to kind of, how's your practice going? Very often the reports are all instrumental. I think my blood pressure has gotten lower, I have more energy. No, it's not a joke, it's good, but it's all sort of, I'm more efficient, I'm more effective, I don't get as upset as much. And I say, yeah, but how is it when you're practicing? And it's very rare, it takes a while before the person realizes that there can be a certain perfume in the practice. In other words, in that moment of awareness, it's a great way to be alive. You don't have to have a kind of quasi-medical enumeration of benefits to document that this is okay to do, and then have it proven by scientists for millions of dollars. You know it yourself in the moment when there's awareness without grasping and pushing away, and there's some kindness and a lightness. There's a different flavor to living in that moment. And so the means and the end are the very same thing. It's the practice of liberation. In a given moment, we're enslaved. In a given moment, we can free ourselves. We're enslaved when we grasp or push away. That means the mind is detained. It's not moving freely. It's not doing choiceless awareness. It's not flowing. It's detained. But then you remember, and there's seeing, and the blockage of the dam stops, and then there's the flow again. And in that moment, there's freedom. And those moments of freedom are real, and they're happening right now. You don't have to wait forever for it. And there are dramatic breakthroughs, too. But the focus on taking care of this moment, don't underestimate that as being the whole practice, because it is. Let me end for this evening. I want to make sure this thing about emptying the mind of all of its notions about itself. We have all these characterizations about who we are, who we used to be, who we are, and who we will be if we keep practicing hard enough. And they're notions. They're representations in the mind, put together by thoughts and pictures, and then we believe them, and we take them to be who we are. Well, what this practice is about is emptying of all that, until finally what's left is what? Absolute presence. It's one way to talk about it. I don't know if it's too convincing, or means anything, but absolute presence. But you can't have absolute presence unless you have absolute absence. Or is the absolute presence is there because there's absolute absence of this preoccupation with ourselves. Constantly self-referential. Constantly. Bodhidharma, many of you know this story, came from India, as the story goes, to China, brought the teaching there. The emperor wanted to find out who this famous teacher from India was and asked him questions. He wanted to know if he would get any merit for all his good works, all his wonderful works that he had done, monasteries closed for monks and nuns and so forth. And Bodhidharma said none, no merit. The emperor was shaken up. Bodhidharma, I don't know, I wasn't there, but he may have been getting at, the emperor was of course very caught up in me. I did all these things for these monks and nuns, and I built monasteries and published books and took care of their health. How much merit is there for me? None. Because of where it came from. They said, what about the holy Dharma? And he says, nothing holy, just vast empty space. Again, puncturing, he had made something else, holy Dharma, shot that one down. Finally, the emperor couldn't take it anymore, and he said, who is it that's telling me all these things? And he said, and then Bodhidharma said, I have no idea. Now, Joseph Stalin came very close to that. Joseph Stalin was almost a liberated being, but he missed the point a little bit, and a lot of people paid for it. From his, not his biography, but not an autobiography about him. There's a story about one of his top assistants was complaining to Stalin, and he said, I don't know, you can't get good help anymore. They're just not on time, and they don't do what I tell them to. They're just a problem. I'm getting really annoyed with all these people I can't count on them. And Stalin got quiet, and then he said, no person, no problem. Okay, next day, no problem, because there was no person. But Stalin was a little too literal about it. But he was on to something. It's just he needed a Vipassana retreat. Could we have a few moments of silence? Let's do some meditation while walking.
बड़ी वाली है ना 28 से जो कल Page 28 हिंदी बुक हंदमयम उदसित सनाथिठान गाथायु भणामसि ना पुण्यकम्मेन उपज्जाया गुणोत्तरा आचर्योपकारा च माता पिता च नातका सूर्यो चंद्रमा राजा गुणवंता नरापि च ब्रह्ममारा च इंदा च लोकपाला च देवता यमो मित्ता मनुस्सा च मज्जता वेरिकापि च सर्वे सत्ता सुखी होन्तु पुण्यानि पकतानि मे सुखं च त्रिविधं देतु क्षिप्रं पापेतवो मतम् इमिना पुण्यकम्मेन इमिना उद्दिश्येन च क्षिप्राहं सुलभे चैव तनुपादानच्छेदनम् ये सन्ताने हीना धम्मा यावन्निब्बानतो मम न सन्तु सर्वदायैव यथा जातो भवे भवे उजुचित्तं सति पन्या सल्लेखो विरियमिना मारा लभन्तु नोकासं खातुं च विवियेषु मे बुद्धादिपवरो नाथो धम्मो नाथो वरुत्तमो नाथो पञ्चेकबुद्धो च संघो नाथोत्तरो मम तेषोत्तमानुभावेन मारोकासं लभन्तु माम्। आइए हम सब अपने पुण्य समर्पित करने के संकल्प की गाथा का पाठ करें। मेरे इन पुण्यों से मेरे गुणवान उपाध्याय, मेरे उपकारी आचार्य, माता पिता एवं संबंधी, सूर्य, चंद्रमा एवं गुणवान नर तथा राजा, ब्रह्मा, मार, इंद्र तथा लोकपाल देवता, यम, सभी मनुष्य, चाहे मित्र हो, वैरी हो अथवा तटस्थ, सभी प्राणी मेरे किए गए पुण्यों से सुखी हों। वे इन्हें त्रिविध सुख दें तथा शीघ्र अमृत पद को प्राप्त करें। इन पुण्य कर्मों एवं इस समर्पण से तृष्णा एवं आसक्ति का शीघ्र भेदन सुलभ हो और जब तक निर्वाण का साक्षात्कार हो, मन की अहितकर अवस्थाओं का हर पुनर्जन्म में नाश हो। सती एवं प्रज्ञा, तप एवं वीर्य से युक्त मेरे सरल चित्त में मार को वीर्य कमजोर करने का अवसर न मिले। बुद्ध मेरे उत्तम नाथ है, धम्म मेरा श्रेष्ठ नाथ है, प्रत्येक बुद्ध मेरे नाथ है तथा संघ मेरा श्रेष्ठ नाथ है। इन सब के उत्तम प्रभाव से मार की शक्तियों को कोई अवसर न मिले। हंदमयम मेताफर्णम करोमसि अहम सुखितो होमि निर्दुःखो होमि अवेरो होमि अव्यापज्यो होमि अनीको होमि सुखी अत्तानं परिहरामि सब्बे सत्ता सुखिता होन्तु सब्बे सत्ता अवेरा होन्तु सब्बे सत्ता अव्यापज्या होन्तु सब्बे सत्ता अनीका होन्तु सब्बे सत्ता सुखी अत्तानं परिहरन्तु सब्बे सत्ता सब दुःखापमुच्यन्तु सब्बे सत्ता लब्ध संपत्तितो मा विगच्छन्तु सब्बे सत्ता कम्मस्य का कम्म दायादा कम्म योनि कम्म बंधु कम्म पटिसरणा यम कम्मं करिष्यन्ति कल्याणं वा पापकं वा तस्य दायादा भविष्यन्ति। आए हम मैत्री भावना को सभी ओर व्याप्त करें। मैं सुखी हूँ, दुख से मुक्त हूँ, वैर से मुक्त हूँ, द्वेष से मुक्त हूँ, चिंता से मुक्त हूँ। मैं सुखपूर्वक अपना संरक्षण कर सकूं। सभी प्राणी सुखी हों, सभी प्राणी वैर से मुक्त हों, सभी प्राणी द्वेष से मुक्त हों, सभी प्राणी चिंता से मुक्त हों। सभी प्राणी सुखपूर्वक अपना संरक्षण कर सकें। सभी प्राणी सभी दुखों से मुक्त हों। सभी प्राणियों की संपत्ति उनसे दूर न हो। सभी प्राणी अपने कर्मों के स्वामी हैं। कर्म ही उनकी विरासत है, कर्म ही उनकी योनि है, कर्म ही उनका बंधु है, कर्म ही उनकी शरण है। जैसे भी कर्म करेंगे, कुशल अथवा अकुशल, वही उनकी विरासत बनेगी। तु सब मंगलम रखन्तु सब देवता सब बुद्धानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। भवतु सब मंगलम रखन्तु सब देवता सब धम्मानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। भवतु सब मंगलम रखन्तु सब देवता सब संगानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तं अभिवादेमि। स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो धम्मं नमस्सामि। सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो संघं नमामि।